Welcome to Podcast 83, a regular look at the news, stories, and trends related to Michigan's 83 counties, from Keweenaw to Monroe, Chippewa to Berrien. Brought to you by the Michigan Association of Counties. Here's your host, MAC Executive Director Stephen Currie.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Podcast 83, the podcast put on by the Michigan Association of Counties. Today, you just got Meghann and Steve. Dina's off doing lobbying things, so it's Meghann and I today. Meghann, did you have a good weekend?
Yeah, it was nice. It's wedding season again. So first wedding of the year was Saturday.
Wow, that's great. I'm also very happy that I'm past that part of my life, because I remember how that occupied every one of my weekends. Also, thank you to DTE Energy for help sponsoring this podcast. And as a reminder, if you do have questions, feel free to type them in the chat, and we will get to them at the end. So, well, let's get right into it, Meghann. Why don't we just start with a state budget update? Where are we at with the budget, and what are we looking at for the next few weeks here?
Yeah, I think we learn a little bit more every day, every week. And last week, I think there were some good announcements. A couple of weeks ago, the governor, the House Speaker, Senate Majority Leader came to this agreement that really was them coming together saying, okay, the legislature wants to be more involved in any sort of pandemic orders moving forward. They wanted to make sure that the MIOSHA draft rules that dealt with permanent mask and social distancing rules were not approved. And the governor agreed to that, but said, you know what, we got to come together and we've got to work on a budget, and you have to take my priorities seriously. So they had, I think, a good conversation. And since then, we've seen now the state budget director, the Senate Approps Chair, Jim Stamas, the House Approps Chair, Thomas Elbert, all being pretty optimistic that they can come together. Expect to see targets this week, start seeing conference committees come together, where essentially the House and the Senate members will come together and reconcile differences between both of their budgets, likely within the next couple weeks here. So I think at this point, everyone's on target to be done with this budget, have it wrapped up into the governor's desk by July 1st. So, in the meantime, they're still working on supplemental. They still have tons of federal money that they're wading through, and there may be some pieces of that looped into the FY 21-22 budget. But really, all of those conversations are happening now, and I think everyone's on the same page that we want to get this done and figure it out before July 1st. So there's going to be a lot more to come within the next couple of weeks here.
Yeah, I think the most important thing to remember is what you said initially, was that we learn more every single day. It seems like there's more and more information that we can either anticipate what's going to happen or be hopeful that things will move along and be done by that kind of cutoff date of July 1st. All right, let's move into some policy issues that we've been following and tracking. Of course, 4-year county commissioner terms is very high on that list. Got some good news last week. What did we hear?
Yeah, well, we got a vote last week. The Senate actually approved it by an overwhelming majority. It was 32-4, so only 4 members that voted in opposition. That's both Senate Bills 242 and 245, sponsored by Senator McBroom and Senator Jeremy Moss. And so we are so excited. The bills would bring county commissioner terms to 4 years, beginning on the 2024 presidential election cycle. So, we've had a lot of county commissioners use our advocacy tools. Keep doing that. Go on our website, use our phone to action. We also have had nearly a third of our counties now that have resolutions in support. So if you guys are interested and you haven't done that yet, please consider that. And you can go, there's a template on our website. Hannah in our office is collecting all of those, and we are keeping track of everything we get. So keep up all of the talking at, district meetings and with your legislators. We're going to continue to advocate for it now to go through the House process. So it got sent to the House Local Government Committee, chaired by a former county commissioner, Representative Julie Calley. So we're going to meet with her, ask to keep this rolling, but keep sending any resolutions. We're using our advocacy tools. We're getting some traction, so it's really, really exciting.
Yeah, those resolutions are really helpful. And also, if you have passed a resolution, it might be helpful just to resend that to your House member now. And with that legislation being in the House now, it would be really helpful for them to refresh their memory and see that again. So if you have already passed one of those resolutions, please push it back out again to your House members so we can keep that moving through the process. Any other policy issues you wanted to touch on there, Meghann? I know got some other items we were going to touch on, but was there anything else you wanted to touch on?
Yeah, one thing I really just wanted to flag, if some of our members might recall that in 2018 we had some changes to the MIDC Act. One of those changes were that the MIDC needed to basically commission a report and a study on the local share requirement. And so that time is now coming. They've actually contracted with public sector consultants. And for everyone that remembers, that local share is essentially the average of the 3 years preceding the act. So 2011, 2012, 2013, you come up with your average share, and that's what is required of the county to continue spending for MIDC standards and pulling down that state grant. So public sector consultants is doing focus groups with county administrators, county commissioners, other countywide elected officials, judges, prosecutors. They are also asking for your participation in a survey. So I would really, really encourage everyone to check out our last legislative update on Friday. There's a link to that survey. Obviously, the more commissioners, administrators, the more county and local funding unit voices, the better. And make sure, you give your viewpoint on that local share and how that process has been working out for your county.
Yeah, great. And then finally, of course, something we've been consistently talking about week over week, the ARP funds, and those are still hitting bank accounts right now. So hopefully, you followed that process. You've registered in the portal. Further guidance was released last week or 2 weeks ago from U.S. Treasury, and they will continue to update that guidance, and we'll continue to share it as we get it as well. But we're, of course, encouraging counties to look at that guidance, look at the FAQs. There's a lot of good information there as far as what can and can't be done, clarification on that. Incidentally, we're also working with the state. We talked about this as well on some different ways that they can help counties, local units of government put together some match funding programs. We're primarily looking at 5 different areas for match programs, water infrastructure and broadband being 1, local capacity and fiscal stability being 2, comprehensive economic development, housing and community development, and public health and safety. So those are obviously very broad topics, but these are ways the state can put up some of the funds that they're getting, and allowing for counties, cities, villages, townships to match to help make those dollars go as far as possible. And I know our townships are really excited about that because their distribution model is a little different than counties. They weren't per capita, so some of them aren't getting a ton of funds, but if they can take what they are getting, use them alongside county funds, and then having a state kick in some money, they can use those funds to develop broadband, or if they're having some water infrastructure issues, use them for things like that. Some of the other areas we're looking at and hopeful that we can come to an agreement with the state. If we're looking at county facilities and HVAC improvements that need to incur, or is your jail an aged jail where you've had too many people that are on top of each other, you need to move to a pod system. That could possibly be something the state helps with. Just moving mental health, or not mental health, but public health in a different area of the county building to allow for, making sure that sick people don't come in contact with non-sick people. Those are some areas we're looking at. So we've been talking with the governor's office on it, state budget office on it. We've now met with both chambers, I believe, on it. We're starting to talk to legislative leaders on it, so they're seeing it, and then we've gotten very, very positive feedback on that. So we'll be sharing more and more information on that as we get more solid information, actual dollar figures maybe in the next 4 weeks or so. But that's still exciting information. There's more and more information coming out on these ARP funds daily as well, weekly. As we get that, we'll make sure to pass that on to everyone. We've also, with the help of Livingston County, there are some third-party vendors out there that can help counties with these funds, and there's a variety of ways they can be helpful, whether it's tracking, reporting, things like that. But that information will be sent out here as soon as that contract is finalized, and that's an allowable expense under the ARP funds is using third parties to help, because I know in a lot of more of our mid-level to smaller counties, capacity is going to be an issue on tracking these funds, using these funds, making sure that your I's are dotted and your T's are crossed. So it's nice to be able to use those funds for that as well. Meghann, did you want to add anything to that?
I would just definitely encourage members go to NACO. They have a great clearinghouse. There's, if you have specific questions, they have a portal to link specific questions or share your story if you guys have ideas of how you're going to use it already. We get information from NACO regularly, and they have webinars on this regularly that we try to attend, but I encourage everyone to just keep an eye on that, because I think more and more questions are being asked and more answers are coming out pretty routinely now.
Yeah. And just a reminder to ask any questions in the chat there. We'll be happy to answer them. Just to update folks on a few other things. We do have a regional summits coming up here in mid-July. We'll be sending out information, if we haven't already, on getting registered for that. What do those topics look like? And we are planning on an in-person conference at the end of September up on Mackinac Island. That'll be a Sunday to Tuesday. I believe it's the 26th to 28th conference. So that we are planning on in person. We are finalizing our breakout sessions, our speakers for that. So we're excited to see everyone back in person again, and hopefully we'll have some great attendance there. I think people will be itching to get back out.
Yeah, I know I am. And hopefully it's nice weather up there. It could be snowing in September on Mackinac.
You never know. When we were there last time, we had such nice weather. We were able to sit on the porch and have some drinks and everything like that. So hopefully we get that repeat of that. I think that was 4 years ago. So Derek, any questions?
Yes, we have a couple of questions. First off, Gerald Jalazinski, please provide an overview of how to calculate local government revenue loss for reimbursement by ARP.
Okay, well, we'll have to save that for a separate discussion, and we'll probably put on another webinar on that, because I think that's a lot of detail, and we can put out some white papers on that as well to kind of walk you through that. But we will do something on that soon, and we appreciate the question. I just think it's a little too in depth for this podcast, and maybe we can do it as a separate podcast or as a separate webinar.
Okay, Vaughn Begic, status of election reform bills.
Well, Meghann, you want to touch on that real quick? I know there's a whole bunch of them out there.
Yeah, both the House and the Senate have a number of different bill packages going through right now, some that are gaining more traction than others. The Michigan Association of County Clerks, also their Municipal Clerk Association, have been primarily the key stakeholders working with the chairs and the bill sponsors to make sure that things align and the bills that only they support move forward. And so there's still a lot of, I think, fluidity in those right now, but we're keeping tabs and making sure that we check in with our county clerks pretty regularly. We have a summit coming up with them on June 21st to check in and get some updates on where they feel and where their positions are landing at this point on the 30 plus bills in this bill package.
Okay, Jim Story, the governor did a news conference last week on broadband support. Are there details on the content of that proposal?
I have not seen anything on that. Meghann, have you seen much more detail on that besides the press release?
Yeah, we had talked to the governor's office right before they had released that announcement. I think the idea is really to have one centralized location out of the Labor and Economic Opportunity Department, and it's really supposed to be more of a hub for all of our other agencies at the state that have to deal with connectivity, trying to make sure that they're filling gaps in areas and understanding what our landscape in Michigan really looks like. So they have, feedback from DHHS to MDE to all of these different groups, and they're all supposed to be centralized and communicating within this one hub now under Leo and the new connectivity director that's part of this office. So that's really the extent that we know right now. I think there's still going to be a lot of things to come, and hopefully a lot of collaboration, communication with counties and locals, particularly with all the federal funding.
Okay, Roseanne Marchetti, where are the recycling bills?
Is that the solid waste planning bills that Dina has been talking about? Is that what she's referring to now?
I presume so, yes. Yes, she says yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Meghann, do you know where those are at right now? I'm not real sure. I don't think they've had much movement since for a few weeks now.
Yeah, they came out of committee. I'm trying to find some bill numbers. Dina's really been leading on that one, so I wish I had a better update. I think they came out of committee. There were still some concerns by various groups, but I know in general, I think we've supported the concept. It's just about execution and the funding attached with some of this. So I would encourage, I think we just did an update maybe a couple weeks ago, and I can try to follow up and get some more information, but Dina would be the expert on that one. So I don't want to give the wrong information, but I'll look it up and follow up with you.
And that seems to be all the questions for today.
All right, great. One thing on that revenue calculation on that question, there's a component of that to keep in mind when you're reading through that FAQs, and we'll make sure to highlight it as we give more information. But there is a growth factor in there. So I believe it's 4%. So let's say your county revenue growth was at 2.1%. You would get, that difference from 4% to 2.1% as revenue loss. So that's an automatic calculated revenue loss for your county. So it's something to keep in the back of your mind as you're looking at that revenue loss component, because that is going to be an important calculation, because that's going to provide you with the most flexibility on the use of those ARP funds, is being able to calculate that revenue loss and making sure that that calculation is correct and you're using that growth factor that's in there.
We had one more question come in. Quentin Bishop, is it possible to invite internet service providers receiving RDOF to provide an update on their implementation timelines?
What is it? What was the acronym again?
RDOF.
Rural Development. I'm not sure what that is, but is he? I don't know if he's asking for us to invite them or if they want to invite them to their county board meetings. Maybe he'll type clarification here in a second.
Okay. Rural Development Opportunity Fund is the acronym.
Okay.
And Quentin, are you asking for MAC to do some type of invitation, or are you talking about can your county do it? Oh, he says he'll follow up with us offline.
Okay.
Yep.
Great.
Thank you.
All right. Well, great. Thanks, everyone. I hope everyone has a great week. I know I'm going to be out of town next week, so I'm not sure if Meghann and Dina have decided yet whether they're going to host the podcast, but I'm sure we'll update you. Hopefully everyone is getting our weekly legislative update. Obviously, there's a lot of information in there as well. We've got Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, put a lot of information out there. So hopefully we're getting to in a lot of different ways, and we'll make sure to update you on the podcast schedule for next week. So thank you, Meghann. Thank you, Derek. Everyone have a great week.
Thank you for listening to today's episode of Podcast 83, the go-to source for all information about Michigan's 83 counties.